Hello, this is Nuggets of Wisdom, the podcast, and today I have with me Jesus. I'm so happy I have Jesus on the podcast. First episode with Jesus, and I love to introduce my guests, and why would I not have Jesus on my podcast? Look at him, like who's not attracted?
I've been working on my hair a little bit.
And this smile, these beautiful eyes, and to be honest, we haven't spoken much, but I feel we have. We've connected a lot. We've met and we gazed into each other's eyes many times. We hugged many times. I don't almost know nothing about you, but I feel like I know everything about you. And I think this is the kind of wisdom I want to bring to these audiences, that we don't need much to know someone and to know that there's a very beautiful heart and a lot of wisdom in someone. So this is why I have Jesus with me today. All right, how are you?
Very good, very excited and curious, but I feel so much joy just gathering with you, and I know we have so much to share about, so yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
So again, one thing that attracts me in people very much is when I can see the smile beaming through the eyes, and you do have that. But maybe let's talk about a time, because you probably had that all your life, but maybe there was a time where it was not as strong and powerful as it is now. So maybe we go back there.
Yeah. So I was studying in university and doing everything well, like that checklist that you want to have social activity, party, holidays, friends, girlfriends, and lots of fun, material possessions. Everything was going on well in my life, but I will still feel that emptiness inside me. I think everyone hears that story, right? But for me, I was trying to make everyone happy, sacrificing my happiness first. And I wasn't noticing that until I was at the end of university, when I got caught up drinking and driving. And I felt so ashamed of me at that time that I decided to, as soon as I finished university, which was 6 months from there, I just wanted to go and travel, because I wanted to breathe new airs and get away from my bubble for a little bit and to explore a different dimension of myself. And it wasn't until I had a little conversation with my oldest sister, who's a philosopher, and I was about a couple of weeks before departing to Australia. I just finished university, so you imagine a lot of parties of graduation, celebrations, whatever, after university. And my older sister was asking me, so how was the party you had last weekend? I was like, it was amazing. And she was like, what do you guys do? And I was like, well, we drank, we danced, we had fun. And she was like, can I ask you a question? Yeah, for sure. And she goes, why the more important the event you attend to, the less you are? And I didn't know what to answer. And then she said, wouldn't it be the opposite? Like those moments, celebrations, farewells, birthdays, weddings, those moments that you really want to encounter with the people you care about, are those moments when you drink more and you black out. And I didn't know what to answer. And then she says, your problem, brother, is not the alcohol. You are the problem. And now, it was big. And then she goes, now you're going to go traveling, you're going to make some money, you're going to get to know places, you're going to get to know people, but go and get to know yourself. And in that moment, I felt like a huge glass broke inside of me. And I was like, please, I'm leaving in 2 weeks, suggest me a book or something, you really touched the fiber. And I didn't realize I was traveling with no purpose. I didn't have purpose for my steps. I was just with no sense, just going on. And since then, a transformation started. That was like a seed that she helped me to plant in myself. And since then, I've been just if you synthesize it in one sentence, I start just shuffling my priorities and changing my habits. So I was in Australia for a bit over a year, and then I went to India, which So when I went to India, I wasn't planning anything. I was just like, you know, everyone goes to Bali, Philippines, Vietnam, Thailand. That's like the typical Southeast Asia trip. And I was like, well, maybe I can do something different. Like, maybe India could be a different place. And I was just started reading Eckhart Tolle, and I started eating vegetarian, and I stopped doing weightlifting and protein shakes. I'll just start working on my own body weight. And I was feeling great. I wasn't following any philosophy or any vegetarian or tag. I was just following my body and my energy. And when I got to India, I went to a yoga class because I was like, okay, I'm in India. I can go to a yoga class, like it's India. And I went to 2 yoga classes, and in the second one I went to, I will feel my body and mind and emotions in a way that I've never felt before, like very light and like smooth and like chill. I was like, well, this is really cool. Like, I can, through my body, I can influence my mental state, my concentration and my emotions, but that was really new. So in the temple I was practicing yoga, I asked the instructor, do you know any course I can do? Like, I'm traveling, I have money, I have time, and I really think yoga is a thing for me, but without knowing much. And he suggested me a yoga university. And that was, I didn't know until then. I was just taking notes. I was like, yeah, thank you. And I just went to the website and I applied, and I went to this yoga university, which was in a jungle. So I just did all my way to a jungle, which was, the campus was there, Swami Vivekananda's university. I didn't know Swami Vivekananda, but he's a really big guy in India. And I went to this yoga university, and that was when I got the big surprise about yoga. Because until then I thought yoga was a physical practice, and I could use my body in order to perform better mentally and emotionally. But in this yoga university, they will teach yoga as a science.
Okay.
And I was like, for 10 hours, like 4:30 a.m. was the alarm clock every day, and we will have like meditation, then yoga practice, physical postures, and then for like 6 or 7 hours, sitting in a classroom about yoga science. What is stress? How many bodies do we have? How do we heal from the emotional body? And all that stuff was like, what the hell? Like, for me, I was like, I came here to do yoga, and I'm like sitting with my crossed leg in a lotus posture, like my hips were like so in pain, and I was like, what am I doing here? But then at some point, everything just made sense for me, because as an engineer, that I love science and I love the left brain explanation of things, I was in this spiritual journey in India, understanding yoga as a science, as a process. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, you know. And it was so clear that there is a process in order to become a better version of yourself. And it was a way of understanding spirituality from another perspective, because Chile is a Catholic country, and like they just teach you just to have faith and pray and no explanation about it. They just give you the rules, but they don't explain why. But yoga was like all the fundamental things that you have to follow in order to perform better at whatever aspect of your life. And that's spirituality, just become your better version. Just that. And how to use in a balanced way your body and mind in order to perform better. And I thought, well, this is very important for everyone to know about it, not because of the spiritual aspect, but to the balance aspect, because they were talking about being healthy. In the campus, they had this village built for people that from Europe and United States, they were traveling there to heal cancer, hypertension, diabetes, Parkinson, everything with yoga. And I was like, how? Like, yoga is a physical practice, you know? And they had these quotes, less medication, more meditation. And they were healing people just through the energy body, which is the emotional body. They say that all the illness starts in the emotional body. And since then, that was 3 years ago, an appetite built it up in me about reading about the science of spirituality. So I wouldn't stop reading books about neuroscience, personal development, personal growth, Eastern philosophy, and then trying to see the common patterns on them, so then I can explain to people in my country or whoever I get to meet in a balanced way spirituality, because sometimes we talk about spirituality from the right brain, from the spiritual brain, which is, yeah, I know, but we have 2 hemispheres and we need to integrate both in order to have a whole brain state to attend to a situation in a holistic way, not just from the right brain. So I became very curious about all these subjects, and in the era we are now, science can really get close to spirituality now, quantum physics and all the research they're doing. They're getting closer and closer to all the philosophy that it's been there for 7,000 years or 12,000 years, you know. So I think we're in an era that we can really approach spirituality from a balanced way, not from the woo-woo way or the badass way, but from both.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting, and also I share that brain because I'm also an engineer. Yes, that's also what I studied, and we're here at Mind Valley where vision also brings a lot of that. You know, how to explain spirituality from a very logical, scientific approach. And so the way I talk about it, I talk about body, mind, and soul. So I think there's like the three parts, like the emotional journey, the logical journey, and the physical journey. You know, yoga is also practice. Yeah. And once you put all three together, you have this balance or harmonized way of approaching it. Now, you also told me that you went away from yoga.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, you know, you have all this journey, you're like, oh, this changed my life. You know, I went from, you know, and you just showed me a picture of you from several years ago, and like the body transformation is massive. Yeah. But so yoga brought you to that, and then you kind of.
Yeah. Right. So when I went back to Chile, people were very curious about my transformation. And they were like, what did you do? Like, what are you doing? Like, I dropped 25 kilos, I changed my looking, my subjects of conversation, my habits. So people were curious about it. And I wasn't sure about like getting a job as an engineer and keep my habits of spirituality, or share whatever I learned in India to everyone in order to help them transform their lives if they want to. Because there's many tools to transform your life. I can just share whatever worked for me. So I started doing workshops in the university where I studied engineering. I did for 2 years workshops of emotional intelligence. So I'll teach students breathwork, meditation, and a lot of like insights of my journey in order to make them have a more balanced life, not only as a student, but inviting them to think that work life is not only about the intellectual aspect. It's very emotional too. You get very emotional when you work, or when you do anything regarding to jobs. It's very emotional, but they don't teach you emotional intelligence. No. They don't teach you how to deal with stress. They don't teach you how to separate your house issues with your job issues. You start mixing them all the time. So I'll start doing that and guiding meditations to courses, enterprises, and I opened up my yoga studio. And I was like, in 6 months, I was like, full on, doing like, I don't know, 13 yoga classes a week, guided meditations, doing these workshops in university, and I just got overwhelmed. You know, I was like, I was just giving too much, and I forgot to do my practice, my meditations. I was just giving and giving and giving, and my body was telling me. My body was in pain. My body was like not restful at all. I will start like having eating disorders. I was still eating healthy, but like not in a structure, you know. So I did,
because there's one thing of eating unhealthy when you're a rugby player, engineer, and now you're doing this as a yoga teacher, teaching people how to be healthier. Yeah, which is the irony is greater.
It is, and I felt it. And while this was happening, I wouldn't stop reading books. I would read 10, 15 books a year of neuroscience, spirituality, whatever. And I found this, I was reading about Bruce Lipton and the biology of belief, and he will speak about the subconscious reprogramming. So I thought, well, that's very interesting, because maybe, so for me, yoga and all this spiritual journey was like opening new rooms in my inner house. Was like getting to know new areas or building new areas in my house. And I was sharing with people all these new areas I built in my house. But I was forgetting to tidy up the rooms where there were black moments, or make some cleaning in the rooms that things weren't very nice, you know. I was avoiding that. I was so happy with the new stuff in my house. I was sharing people this, but I was holding, how do you say, like uncleanness from the past.
Yeah. It's like you built an extension to the house.
I did.
And that's where you invite your guests.
Yes.
You're like, yeah, look at my house. Look at my house. It's still your guest rooms, and your bedroom is a fucking mess.
That's right.
Right.
And I realized that that's tied to limiting beliefs I was holding maybe when I was little. That you don't know. Maybe when you were 2 or 3 or 5, maybe you had a trauma, and that created a belief, and that makes your behavior towards life, towards your job, towards relationships, towards health. So I started researching more and more, and I went to Argentina to do workshops of a process that it's called Psyche, which is subconscious reprogramming. And I found really interesting because I know yoga and meditation, it's a really good way to work on your spirit and mind and body. And if you blend that with undoing limiting beliefs of yourself, it's like a catalyzer. It's like putting Vaseline and it goes quicker, So I just quit the yoga studio because yoga is forever for me, and it's for me because it works for me. But I think I can share my message way more beyond than placing myself on a yoga mat and doing salutations to the sun. Like there's many yoga instructors that can do that. But I want the message of yoga rather than the movements of yoga. The message of yoga, the science of yoga is way more powerful. And if you practice yoga without knowing the science of it, there's no point.
It's fitness.
It's like having an iPhone and just making phone calls. I mean, yeah, you can use an iPhone for phone calls, but you can do so much more with an iPhone. With yoga, yeah, you can stretch your body, yeah, you can do so much more. But if people are missing the science behind, if people don't know all the capabilities of an iPhone, they wouldn't know how to use it properly, right? So I became aware that yoga needs to be spreaded in the philosophical way also, and the practical way in order to get the full potential. You can have a Ferrari in your city, but if you don't take it to the highway, you're not making the full potential of the Ferrari. So yoga is a Ferrari, but you need to take it to the highway in order to really feel the experience of it. So I'll start doing speeches and like doing therapy through subconscious reprogramming, because there was a space more comfortable for me to share my insights and share my philosophy of life in order to how you can see problems. Because as engineers, we solve problems. That's what engineers do, solve problems of the system. Because the system is vitiated, the system is corrupted, the system doesn't work well. How about this system? How many corruption happens in this system? How many incoherence are in this system? So I like the term emotional consultancy or inner engineering, that Sadhguru says that. So I started doing this, organizing workshops and doing speeches and doing therapy because it was a space that I can get more deep with people about my insights of how to see problems in life. They're not problems, they're just obstacles that they're not like not letting you go through life. I think obstacles is the path. That's the path. So yeah.
and it highly resonated with you, and now you're putting my journey in perspective, because I'm also an engineer and I'm also using my mind to say, I don't want to solve a bug in a program that will be obsolete in 2 years. I want to work on these code.
That's right.
Keeps evolving and still alive constantly. But just to come back to the overall journey, I feel like when you were studying engineering and your sister put the first light on the fact that you're basically never in your house.
Yeah.
Like if we keep with the house, you're like always outside and you don't know what's in your side, and so you go inside. That's when you start discovering these new rooms.
Yes.
Through yoga. But then you're like, at some point you're like, okay, I have these rooms, but there's like an inner, it's like an onion. And like you get closer and closer, and when you're saying subconscious, you feel like you're very close to the core.
Yeah.
Probably there are other layers, it's like in...
Sure they are.
I guess as the infinitely small, as you zoom in, there's like a shit, it still has smaller part. But I feel like, just also to rephrase how I see your journey, was like, okay, closer to the core of knowing thyself. And yeah, talking about, going further, do you feel that your level of understanding or self-awareness closer to the center is getting to, let's say, 100%, or still so much more to explore? Or do you feel like you're getting ready to enter a new inner layer?
Yeah, I feel like I found my highway in order to go through. I don't know where it's taking me, but I know it's my highway. You know, I know it feels right for me. And I'm so glad that I did engineering, because at the beginning I was like, I love yoga, I love spirituality. Why did I spend 6 years in university solving equations and studying thermodynamics and physics if I'm so in love with this? But now I understood that there were all ingredients that I will use for my recipe, which everyone has their own recipe because everyone gathers different ingredients, experiences and like titles, whatever. So I think what I see that is lacking in society in my country is that spirituality and like city lifestyle or like 2019 lifestyle are like separate things. People will think that becoming spiritual is like going to a mountain and just meditate and be outside of the world. But I think what we need now is how can we find spirituality in this world, because we were born in this era for a reason. Otherwise we wouldn't be born in, I don't know, 2,000 years ago, and we were like so easy to live in nature. But we have to just come back to our nature, because we could be so disconnected from nature, but we're still ruled by their laws. The laws of nature are our laws, nothing more than that. So as I've been aligning myself to the laws of nature, collaboration, interconnectedness, cause and effect, less is more, cyclicity. And there's 11 principles of nature that I use with the Psyche process, which is built from nature. I think it's the best way to bring harmony and balance, because nature is the best coach is nature. That's the best coach. You don't need any other coach than nature, and just like that.
If you pay attention.
If you're a good student, you can have the best teachers in front of you, but if you're a bad student, you know.
So, based on that, you know, on your study of psyche and subconscious programming, the laws of nature, why do you believe? Because 11 is too much. You know, like it's great if you're a good student and you go through the whole curriculum. But what do you think would be one, maybe three, but if one core principle that you think is the first step for the people watching, maybe for me, or the one that was for you, out of these principles, like the first step?
Yeah. First one, collaboration. Sometimes we just push ourselves too much in order to achieve things by ourselves. That's very a competitive way of thinking, because I want to be better than the other. I want to be better than the competition. I want to be better in compared to the other countries. You know, like the whole, like I love sports, and I see sports now, and it's a bit sad because it's so much competition. Like you see a final of the World Cup, and the champion is celebrating, and the losers, second place of a World Cup, they're crying because they didn't get the first place, but they got second, but they're crying. That's a very competitive mindset, which brings you to so much suffer. If you keep on competing with people, you're gonna suffer if you don't reach the first place. If you're second, you're not happy. But if we have a collaboration sort of mindset, then I can do the best of myself, you can do the best of yourself, and everyone can do the best of themselves and collaborate and build one. Everyone maybe do a different job in the journey or the business or the family or the team, whatever it is. But if we all collaborate towards one goal, then we can achieve way more than everyone building their best self. Like you see an engine, and you see an engine, and you have you see an engine. You have different parts of the engine, different pieces, different tools, different shapes, materials, different functionalities, but they all work for one purpose: to move the car. If they start competing to each other, like, they're not work. Like every part of it, even they look different, they're different size, different material, but they all work for one purpose. So collaboration invites us to become aware of one purpose and to work for it. And it doesn't matter, I look different, I'm a different material or color, it doesn't matter. Let's work for one purpose, but with a collaboration mindset.
It's very profound. And it's a very big first step.
Like, I mean, it's a muscle.
I truly resonate. I've done sports too, and I quit because of the competitive mindset. Because for me, the only valid competition is with my older self. And the competition against you is for you to challenge me to be a better version of myself. That's the way I see it, you know,
Yeah.
like I want to beat you so that because it will prove to myself that I've improved.
Yeah.
Now, if you beat me, that I'm also happy because I'm like, oh, I have some more to learn because otherwise,
Yeah,
you know, if you're alone, and I think it goes back to the proverb, alone you go faster, together you go further.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And it's like it's frustrating sometimes for one to have a competitive world because you don't get recognition if you've done your best. Like you see in the Olympics, you see the finals of sprinters, 100 meters, and the 5th place or 6th place, they're just like looking like down. They've been training for years for the Olympics, and they got to the finals, but they got 5th or 4th. No recognition. Everyone's like, no, just the 3 first places. That's so sad.
The first one.
I'm the first one, and the rest, all the training, all the effort, no recognition. Yeah. That's really sad because people should be recognized just for trying their best.
And also, now that you say that, it's like how discouraging. Like the message is like, don't try. Like literally, because if you're not going to, if you don't believe you can be the first one, don't try.
That's right.
Because there will be no reward.
That's right.
Very, very.
Yeah, and that brings to the second principle I really like. It's less is more, which is really cool to understand and share it, psychologically speaking. But bring it to the physiological world, it's kind of gets hard. But less is more. I think it's a principle of nature that choose the path of less resistance. Just choose the path of less resistance because we have the belief that with the more effort we put on, the more we're going to achieve. And that only applies to the physical body, maybe, a little bit. Like if you train your body a lot, maybe you get a more shaped physical body, but that doesn't apply to the mind. If you want a good and healthy mind, you need less thoughts. You need more focus, but if you want more focus, you need less stimulus. So less is more makes you focus on something. Because if you want to achieve too many things, you're not going to be able to profound on all of them. But if you just focus on one thing, like say, I don't know, Lionel Messi, his focus is to play football. Just that, enjoy and play football. And he's the best on what he does, but he just focus on that, you know? You see an artist, you see a musician, they don't focus on anything, but they don't focus on many things, just one. Your talent. Yeah. And if you apply less is more, then you can recognize easier your talent and just go deep on that and show the world what makes you unique, because uniqueness means like one thing that makes you unique, but you need to do less things in order to find it and then focus on it.
And I think to bring back to something a lot of people watching this probably know is the Pareto principle. Like the 20-80, 20% of the effort bring 80% of the results. So it's, I think how I would translate your message is also make clear, you know, the outcome you want to create.
Yeah.
Because like the more is like, where is the more? Where do you want more? Like, because if you want more connection, if you're really clear about connection, you don't necessarily need to drink more to get more connection. Actually, maybe meeting less people and deepening the connection.
That's right.
It's like about getting clear, why are you going out on Friday night and partying until 3 a.m.? What are you actually looking for? Because I think a lot of us do a lot of action, we are in the more, because we don't have the clarity on what is the outcome, what is the feeling we actually want to have, and finding the shortest path.
True. To that. True, and there is a quote that we use in Psyche as a philosophy that simple is divine, complicated is human. So I think less is more applies to the divine, and more is more to the human world. Yeah. That's why I said the body and the mind, but yeah.
Beautifully said. I love that.
Yeah.
So let's bring this to an end and to wrap. And I always end the episode with one nugget of wisdom. Like it can be something from what we've discussed, something you feel like if I had to say one thing, but it can be something you haven't said so far. Yeah,
so I think that as we live in the dual world, there's always a positive and negative aspect in order for something to exist. Like up exists because down exists. Hot exists because cold exists. So every situation, any problem on life has a positive aspect and a negative aspect, or a masculine or feminine aspect. A constructive way of seeing a problem or a destructive way of seeing a problem. So why do I say this? Because there's this law of the opposites, that they need each other to exist. Like up needs down to exist. They need each other to exist. So whenever you're going through a hard time, anger, sadness, stress, whatever, it wouldn't exist if it doesn't have an opposite holding it, right? So, but I'm not saying that for example, if I'm getting closer to you now, I'm getting more far away from the doorway, right? Both realities are happening. There's a positive one, there's a negative one. Which one am I paying attention to? The scarcity? Am I like, oh no, I'm getting away from the door? Or am I focusing on abundance? Oh, I'm getting closer to Sebastian. So if you're going to any hard situation, acknowledge that wouldn't exist if there is not a positive one holding it. They have to, they need both. You cannot be going through a sad or negative time in your life if there is not a positive thing holding it to. And that applies to any reality. So if you're able to see both, I'm not saying just shift your focus to the abundance and forget about scarcity. Just be able to see both and then choose which you want to pick. Just broaden your menu. Maybe you're seeing just rice, but maybe there's potatoes, and you're like, okay, there's two. There's a positive and negative way. Like, which one do I want to choose? And that you will become more aware that problem is happening for a reason. If you fear about stepping into a new challenge, that fear only exists because there's growth behind. Otherwise, fear wouldn't be there. Can exist if it doesn't have the opposite. So it's just inviting everyone to see that duality is everywhere, and whatever you're seeing as positive has a negative consequence. Whatever is negative has a positive consequences. And yeah.
Thank you for that insight.
Yeah, pleasure.
And building up on that, I really start loving the downs. Actually, I'm getting more excited in the downs and the ups, because in the up, I know what's coming. I know I'm rewarded for my hard work, for having learned the lesson. But in the down, I don't know.
That's right.
I don't know why I'm feeling down. I don't know why things are not working. I don't know. So at first I get frustrated and feel things, and I'm just like, oh, great. What's happening? What is the, and I say, for me, it's either you have rewards or gifts. And the problem with gifts, what you're describing, is most people don't open.
That's right, and it's about
unwrap the box.
Yeah, there's a quote I love. It's sometimes I win, sometimes I learn, and that's exactly what you're saying also. Because, sometimes we're just like putting our focus in one, and it's like seeing the glass half empty or half full. Just see the glass. Any situation, try to see the glass and then choose what you want to pick.
The empowering reality.
Yeah, it's all, I think, of perspectives.
Beautiful and beautiful episode again on Nuggets of Rhythm. Thank you, Jesus.
Thank you, Sebastian.
And for this conversation. Again, you know the drill. This is not about listening or getting inspired. I want you to take action based on this wisdom. You don't have to listen to everything. You just take what relates and resonates to you now as you watch this. Because the reasons Jesus can shine this truth is because he has embodied this wisdom. You know, if you can see his eyes beaming and this beautiful smile, if you're watching this video right now, is because he has embodied the fact that life has two sides and everything is polarity, and all the wisdom, not only that, but all the wisdom he has shared today. So it's about embodying it so that you can shine for others. So go out there, find one nugget of wisdom from this episode and start seeing how you can apply it in your life so that you can start also impacting others. And now you know the drill. Share, like, comment, subscribe so that you can make sure that you receive all the nuggets of wisdom I'm sending your way thanks to my beautiful guest. Right. See you very soon. This was Nuggets of Wisdom, the podcast.